All right, it's 3:29 Central. Apple's earnings are due to be released here any moment. And so what I've got set up here is the news right here. This is a 1-minute chart, and it's showing Apple price live. And let's see what happens. Apple is going to be a market mover. It usually is, but if it's obviously it's quite okay. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Initial move is boom to the upside. Let's see if it's a fake out or if it rolls back over and dies, because a lot of times that initial move is a fake out. So we've traded as high as 124, as low as 119.50. And now we're bouncing right back up again. So this is normal. This is normal. You shake people out. And we got iPhone sales bolster Apple's revenue. I actually really don't care so much about the releases because the price is going to tell you everything that you need to know. And at this point, so the expected move on Apple, and this is where it gets interesting, is $4. Okay, so the close was $121.35. So a $4 move would take it to 125.35. Okay, and the reason that's important is that that's what the market expects. So if for some reason we push beyond the expected move, this could have a very, very big impact on the market itself. So far so good on Apple. Looks like reports earnings $3.36 versus $3.22. Okay, so it beat. That's great, but now again, you got that initial, it's like you came down a little bit, you went up, tested the expected move, and now we're kind of settling in. So far this is bullish. If this initial pullback is shallow and then it takes out that 125 high, shorts will definitely be on the run. In terms of a trade, let's see, how did we do this one? Oh, I only got filled on half the position. That is too bad. But in terms of a trade, how we did this in the trading room was we just sold the put spread. So sold the 120, 116 put spread. The idea would be is that if Apple can go sideways to higher, this would expire worthless, and we would keep that money and put it in our pocket. And it looks like at this point we are good to go. And Apple, 125.27 did trade. So good action there. So let's take a quick check in here on the NASDAQ. A little bit of a pop here with Apple. So yeah, I mean that's pretty solid. And S&P's a little quieter. And let's go back to Apple here real quick. And that's solid. EA, Electronic Arts, was another one that had earnings, and that one looks like it's pretty middle of the road. So it'll be interesting. So anyway, at this point, kind of all eyes are on Apple. And what's interesting is, let's go look at the daily chart here. So you can see from a daily perspective, it's been weak the last 2 days, but all we've done is come back to the mean, okay, the 21-period moving average. And now if Apple, stays strong here, this could launch us up to the next leg higher. And same thing with the S&Ps. We came down and tested the 21 EMA yesterday. We bounced. We tested it again today, plus that snow line, and bounced. And obviously, if Apple can stay strong overnight, then this should pretty much send shorts, at least in the near term, running for cover. So it'll be very interesting. So anyway, that looks good for tomorrow. One unknown thing a lot of people don't realize is that, like a company like Apple, they come out with good earnings. The futures actually take a while to price it in. So you can always buy like a futures contract after the big move, and just, the futures just go up afterwards. It's a pretty fascinating thing. All right, so let's take a look at this. So wanted to talk real quick about, people have been asking, like, hey, what are the trades that you've liked the most so far this year? And I'll show you the setups that I liked. So for Goldman Sachs, this was one where you can see this green line here. This green line is measuring the correlation strength of Goldman Sachs versus all these other things. And when you see one of these that it's in the middle of the road, it's like, okay, you're not really looking for anything to happen. But when it spikes up above, you're actually looking for, and this is the key here, okay, this is the absolute key, a greater than expected move, a GTEM. And when you get a GTEM, you can buy out of the money options. Otherwise, the only time to buy out of the money options is if you've got a high probability of a greater than expected move, and that's telling you that. And then you can kind of come over here on an intraday chart, line that up with a squeeze, and then you want to see if there's power behind the squeeze. And if there's power behind the squeeze, what happens is that this indicator here, you're going to see red bars when there's red dots. And it's showing you, like, okay, there is some power building up. And then once it triggers, if you see green bars after it triggers, that means that you've got huge power coming into this. And then what you'll see, this will kind of tell you like, hey, heads up, it's losing power and it's time to get out. So it's a really nice, clean in, out. You know you got power, you've got a signal, and you can buy out of the money options. So in this case, this is this particular trade here. I took a screenshot of it after when I was in it. So we bought the out of the money calls for 10 cents, and you can see here they're $5, and so that $100 into almost $5,000 here. Now obviously, that's not going to happen all the time. I will also in this case buy in the money options. That's still more than a triple. That's great, but it is fun to kind of actually have a signal that shows, look, you don't have to risk a lot of money on this one because everything's lined up. And then another example here was on Tesla. And on Tesla, on this particular trade is the same thing. And if you look at this, I've got them labeled as 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what you're looking for. So number 1, you got to squeeze. Number 2, is there power? Yes. Number 3, is it a max correlation in relation to everything else we're measuring it against? Yes. And then that you get in and then just ride on it until you get the signal saying like, hey, this thing's running out of steam here. And that means you can get out on strength. Okay. And this was good for just a couple of days. It was good for an $8,000 profit. And on this one, I didn't do the out of the money because we didn't have that daily correlation like on Goldman Sachs. But I mean, I did some calls that expired in 3 days, and then some deeper in the money calls that expired in 24 days, and was able to get out of them after 2 days of very low stress for $8,300. And again, the nice thing about when you get a setup like this is that you're not going to get a lot of premium decay because you're essentially looking for the stock experiencing the expected move of the week in 1 day. And that means that the premiums for those out of the money options, not only do they not contract, but they actually expand. You actually get a lot more bang for your buck on those days if you've got the tools to time it. So if you are interested in these indicators, you can go to simplertrading.com/spy tools. Okay, and just scroll down here, and you'll see here that we've got them set out. See which one you like the best. The sector SPY indicator, that's the most advanced indicator of the bunch. Okay, it's $5.97. Now, if you get to the bottom, you'll see that there's a special here. The credit sniper indicator is $2.97. That's the one that tells you when to get out. And then the launchpad indicator is the one that tells you kind of the power behind the squeeze. Okay, and then also what we're going to do is, for those of you that aren't familiar with these, is there'll be a live trading session showing you how to use these indicators, and that's 147. Now, if you're looking at all this and say, okay, all that makes sense, then just scroll to the bottom, and instead of doing it's like the indicator is 597, then 297, and the other one's 197, and the live trading's 147. So I don't even know what that is. That's like $1,100 and something dollars. You can just get all of that for $697. That'll get you set up with all the indicators. Right now we've got them for Toss and Trade Station, plus a live trading session to sit there and see how to do that live. Okay, so simplertrading.com/spy tools. These are very, very powerful. They work great with the MTFA, with the RAF, and a couple of other ones. Very, very complementary and have been very powerful this year. All right, hope it helps. You guys have a great night. See you at the next update.